And on three.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, I got nailed it.
My handwriting is good. I'm not that into reading.
All right, so open them up, take a look at them, and share the results. Then don't do anything with them, just go collect them. All right.
You're breaking down molecules with your metabolism, and so that's what
It's also getting rid of, well, we might have, it depends on if you're plant or an animal, which gas is going in or out.
Respiration is a process, and they say this fire and
But I forgot to put was getting rid of.
I initially had everything checked.
If you do discuss something like this ahead of time, do you want to put anybody off from being wholeheartedly, no pun intended, involved in the lab that we're going to be doing? Do you want to highlight those potential ideas so that people pick up on it more easily, more readily? I mean, so how would you do that? How would you use this? I mean, some people are saying, okay, and critiquing this thing itself. Are all the answers checked? Would you put in some that don't get checked? Okay, so
You mean from a teacher's point of view if you were using this in the class?
let's look at it from a teacher's point of view.
Because I think that I would look at it, some of the misconceptions kind of jump right out, and as a teacher I would make sure that I hit that because I want to make sure that the students understood it.
Right,
I
so
mean,
you would
see
do this far enough ahead of time so that you could collect them, you could read them, and then would you have the class discussion, or would you have the class discussion right from here? With your groups, can you come to a consensus enough about having a class discussion about what this information is now? Would you use it as a class, as a prior, what do you think you know about respiration and neuro? What do you think you know? What do you want to know? And then after the lab, you come back and you know what have we learned. And if you always keep that word, what do you think you know, in there, then it's not so detrimental to one's psyche that, well, I knew that. What do you think we know? We all, in science, it's all about what we think we know until we're shown otherwise. We've got to keep an open mind about being able to change our mind. Yeah.
The only thing that is, if I'm going to write down what do you think you know, I want to make sure that we come back and revisit it and make sure that everybody's on the same page whether it was correct or not correct. Because I think a lot of kids are like, just give me a piece of information, I'm going to carry that in my head and I'm not going to analyze it any further than that. And so if you come up with misconceptions, like I like that everything on here does respiration. And so it's a neat and clean thing, and there are lots of different examples that you wouldn't necessarily think of.
Okay.
So that's clean, and what I want to do is avoid having a child getting the wrong idea and carrying that instead, because either we didn't talk about it thoroughly or not,
Right.
or or they just were lazy thinkers, which.
And with a KWL chart, oftentimes they know everything goes up there, and sometimes we think everything that goes up there is what we need to know.
Right.
Yeah. Then and there.
I think it's really, really important at this stage for there to be no wrong answers. Otherwise, kids won't even want to try or guess. So it's, you know, what you think you know, I think is a really good way to word it, because it can't be wrong if it's what they, I mean, the answer may in the long term be very wrong, and they'll discover that. But they have to be able and willing to be vulnerable and say, well, I think it might be this, even if it's way out there.
Because somewhere along the line, they got that idea from something.
And you have to make this stage of it be, there are no wrong answers. And then you'll come back and say, now we know there really were some wrong answers, and let's, but at this, when you're just doing the brainstorming part, there really have to be no wrong answers.
And emphasizing that we're always learning something, we're always changing our ideas based on new evidence, and it's the evidence, it's all about the evidence. Mark?
Along the same lines, I think it might be good to treat it more like a brainstorming session where you're not really giving value judgments to any of the ideas and just, oh, that's interesting. There's some difference in opinion as to what respiration is, and almost like Scott when he did the coffee cans, that generated a lot of interest, and he kind of left us hanging for a few days and not really knowing what was going on there. I think it would probably bring kids into the lab and try to figure out, so was I right or was I wrong? And, so it might bring more interest into the activity.
And when you're talking about where they learned it, a lot of times you're not attacking them or their knowledge. They see it as an attack. Oh, you're calling my mom stupid.
That's not a good recommended teaching technique.
No, it does not work.
Yeah, my mom told me that. The moon is not up in the daytime, you're just seeing a reflection of it in the sky. That I've heard.
That's what my dad said.
My mom told me that. Not mine.
In my class, if I had given this, I would have had over half the kids would have written, I have no idea.
Right, I wrote
Yeah, they would, my students, my fifth graders at the beginning of the year, over half of them would not even recognize the word. A third of them wouldn't be able to read it. So we would get a blank stare, probably.
Well, I think with any teaching technique, you have to teach them how to use it and enjoy it. So the first time you do something like this, you're probably not going to get that much buy-in. But after a while, that's why, to me, October gets to be really fun because they start to trust you and go with you. And February is the best month of the year because
You're going.
they're yours, and they play along with any crazy thing you come up with, and summeritis hasn't started yet. And they'll be there.
And then it goes downhill.
Oh, yeah.